Good evening, everybody, or sorry, good afternoon, South Africa and Zimbabwe. Welcome to Global Education's virtual Expo. My name is George, and I'm sitting in Perth in Australia at our Australian branch here. The office is actually closed today in South Africa. We've got them on a break. So for all of you that have emailed and messaged today, thank you very much. We will be sharing this recording with all of you. We've got a lovely webinar and discussion. It's a little bit different today. We're going to have the University of Groningen have a full presentation conversation with us. We've actually got two people from Groningen that are having a conversation with us today. We've got Charlotte and Heidi. They both work at the university. Charlotte is actually the lady that we work with on a day-to-day basis. If you are interested at the University of Groningen, she's one of the very first people that we're going to put you in touch with to have a look. And Heidi also works with Groningen during the marketing side of things. So you're going to get a full exposure of the university today. And I think enough of me talking. Put your questions in the chat box and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Charlotte, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm just going to make sure that I do this properly. I'm going to share my screen. Do bear with me. Here we go. Hopefully you can all see the presentation. I assume you're all nodding. Yeah. There we go. So this, as George said, University of Groningen. My name is Charlotte, and behind me, you can see not too far from here, a scene from Groningen. We are both of us here, Netherlands. It's going to be myself and Heidi, and we're just going to talk you through a little bit about what the university is like, who we are, entry requirements, what to expect, what being a student here is, and just a quick weather. I always feel I need to give a weather report. It's a bit grey, but it's holding firm, so it's not too wet. So let's get started. So the University of Groningen, we are very old, very old. We're the second oldest university. The oldest is Leiden, which you may have heard of. So we are 407 years old. I think as of last month, we turned 407. We had about 33,500 students. That's gone up by a few thousand, but we have a good number of students that are international. So you'll be in very good company. And because of the work we've been doing with Global and the visits there and talking to you guys as well, there's a very healthy number of South Africans and Zimbabweans here, which I'm very happy about. So that contributes to our 120 nationalities. And it's quite nice. I've been here 6 years. As you can tell, I'm a Brit, a Londoner. Hopefully you can tell I haven't lost my accent, but I've been here 6 years. And in that time, I have to say, walking down the street, I'll hear Romanian, Polish, haven't had Afrikaans yet, French, Spanish, lots of English. So it's a really international city, which I love. Like I said, coming from London, it's not London, but it's turning into a very diverse city, which I really, really enjoy. So we have the highest number of English taught degrees in the Netherlands. So chances are, if you're interested in a bachelor's program, we've probably got it in English. And if it's not called what you traditionally think it's called, it might be called something else. We've got a good number of faculties. So what we're called is a traditional university, a broad university, which means we're not just technical subjects or just art subjects. So of those 11 faculties, and I'll cover those in a sec, we've got everything from law to media studies to international relations. And when you're done with your bachelor's, or if you're looking for a master's, we do a great deal of research. And we've got graduate schools as well. Very proud to have had a few Nobel Prize winners come through our doors. And we do all right in the rankings. We've steadily been within the top 100. But having said that, most Dutch universities, I think over 60%, 70% of Dutch universities are in the top 100 of university rankings. So education here is not too bad. It's quite good. And as I said, top quality. And as someone that went to university in the UK, I always slightly think of, you can't help. I end up comparing, what is it studying in the Netherlands like compared to the UK? And the education here is really good. So we are research driven, which means that you'll often get your hands on a lot of research, even quite an early stage. So when you come to the end of your bachelor's degree, you usually have to do a research paper at the end of it. And that is a topic that you're really excited about. So if you want to do research on, I don't know, the impact of TikTok on boomers or something, which apparently is a thing since lockdown. So if that's something you want to do, that's something you can consider. There are also opportunities for employment in the Netherlands. Now, we'll come on to it a bit later. You don't need to learn Dutch, and I speak it like a 7-year-old on a good day. Heidi's a lot more fluent than I am. In fact, she is fluent. So you don't need Dutch, but for employment, we often say having some Dutch does help. And if you speak Afrikaans, then you're kind of sort of on the way there. The financial benefits, if you compare it, and we will do a little bit later, to number of other similarly ranked universities globally, the tuition fee and the living costs are lower, whereas the living standards are awesome. The work-life balance here is crazy. For example, I get 8 weeks of holiday a year, and that is very much a Dutch thing, that they value you work hard, but you also play hard. Language barrier, none. But like I said, 6 years, I speak like a 7-year-old, but I'd encourage that you try, but you don't need Dutch. You absolutely do not need Dutch to start your program here. The whole degree is in English, unless you're doing something like medicine. And also, when I was looking for somewhere to move, I wanted somewhere that if I wanted to escape and explore, I could. So you could literally leave Groningen and be in Berlin in about 5 hours. And there's a slide there that I'll show you shortly. Now, Groningen is I call it a big little city. So it's got about 230,000 people. And I joke and I call it a big village. It's not a village, but you'll sometimes bump into people, you know, which is nice, you know, it's not daunting. And 1 in 4 people is a student. So I always say that I'm an adult living in a student world. Whereas if you're studying somewhere like Amsterdam or Rotterdam or any of the other big cities in the Netherlands, you're a student in an adult world. So that is a difference. So this city is geared up for students, and it's known as the very nice student city, and all the good things that come with being a student. I find it really safe. So like I said, from London, you have to have your wits about you. And, you know, I'd be very cautious about cycling at midnight or something. Whereas here I've been to cinema, watched I think it was Star Wars premiere at the time at midnight with a friend, jumped on my bike at 2 or 3 o'clock, cycled home. And I live alone. And yeah, I find it really safe. And that for me is really, really important. And here it's a kind of do you environment. It's, you know, you do you, I do me. So you can, there's a niche for everybody, and people generally don't care that much about who you are, what you do. You just get on and live your life and let them live theirs. Loads of large companies here, which I have to admit, when I first moved here, I wasn't aware. But there's Google data centers quite close to Groningen. We've got IBM, Philips, Deloitte, a lot of the big companies that you might be familiar with. But else, alongside that, a lot of our graduates and a lot of people leave Amsterdam or the bigger cities because this place is a startup city. Because it's so many young people, if you have an idea or if you want to get started on like a little side hustle or a new business, this is the place to be. It's quite a vibe. There's a lot going on. Loads of bicycles. I'm not a fan of cycling, but I have 2 bikes. So that gives you an idea that everything you do, if you go to IKEA and buy something, chances are you'll transport it home on a bike. So there's bikes everywhere. Apparently every person has 2.3 bicycles, however you calculate that, I'm not sure. And also, usually there's events year round. They're just starting up again. Things are being monitored, but there's, like I said, a really nice vibe, and there's always something that's going on. I mentioned Berlin. You can drive there in 5 hours, get a train in 5 hours, and I've done that before. You can drive to Copenhagen. As you can see, the city and the country are in the center. So I always say it's quicker for me to fly from, say, Groningen to London or Amsterdam to London, and it takes about 2 hours to get a train from Groningen to Amsterdam. So this place is very, very accessible from what I see, which I really like. And I've been to Paris by train to see friends. And, you know, so it's something, if you know people or you want to explore Europe, this is a really nice jump off country or jump off location to do it. Touched upon our bachelor's programs. We've got a lot. Honors college is if you are quite smart or you want a challenge and you're like, okay, I've got my standard hours or my standard program, but I also want to add some extra bits. You have to be relatively smart to do that, but that also contributes to your to your grades, or it contributes to your workload, if you will, or your academic workload. So faculties, we've got 11. And within that, you've got everything from economics and business, bit of philosophy. We've also got computer science. We've got things like human geography, spatial sciences. We've got theology. We've got liberal arts and sciences. And that will be for somebody if you're really good at, say, economics, but you're really interested in psychology, but you're also partial to a bit of international relations. So it's though the entry requirements for those are often a little bit higher, but it allows you to explore a range of subjects. And I know a lot of you are like, well, I like a bit of this and I like a bit of that. But even if you don't, there's subjects that stick to, you know, media studies, international relations in the Faculty of Arts. There's also set programs within these faculties as well. Where are we? So this is literally lifted from Google Maps. I don't know if I can show you. So I am currently here. Heidi, I don't know where you are. You're probably down here somewhere at the moment. No, you're down here. Heidi's at home. So everywhere they say is within a 10-minute bike ride. So these are our 3 campus areas. We've got the central one. And with the central one, you've got arts, law, social sciences, and you've got the medical school there. And then you've got the other faculty, science and engineering. And you can get everywhere by bike. So to Zurich, it's about a 12-minute cycle from the city centre, and our student accommodation, etc., is spread out throughout the city. So everywhere is literally a 10 to 12-minute bike ride. Or if you bike like me, like a very old lady, I bike very slowly. It's usually about 10 to 15, depending on where you're going. And we have another campus, which is in Leeuwarden, which is about 42 minutes train ride from here. And that's where 34 minutes. And that's where we've got another one of our university colleges, and they do a lot of with sustainability, looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So a lot of their subjects that you study there would be focused around that as well. And this is going to be the last slide, I believe. So our academic year is almost upside down to the Southern Hemisphere. So for us, we've just started. We started, I think this is the second week, coming to the end of the second week. So term starts beginning of September and ends about June, July. But June, July is when you do resits. We are fully on campus. And I found out, we heard from the government next week, we're going unmasked, no distance, full capacity. So it's full speed ahead. And the Netherlands has done quite a good job of managing the pandemic. So we've been able to slowly open things back up again. And it's nice to see students buzzing around the city and the city coming back to life again. So usually you have 2 semesters, which are split between a couple of blocks, and each block is 10 weeks. But unlike maybe the US, and where you have 4 years, and your first year, you're sort of exploring, you're learning, you're maybe doing a bit of astronomy, a little bit of traditional dance. From day one in the Netherlands, you are doing the subject you signed up for. So what that means is these guys that started in 10 weeks are going to have their first lot of exams. So 7 weeks, they started last week. So in another 6 weeks, they're going to start sitting exams, which is nice because you get going and you start and you're doing exactly what you signed up to do. But of course, there's plenty of time to explore other areas that you might be interested in. So Heidi, I'm going to hand over to you, I believe.
Yeah, and I hope you can hear me clearly, both. Okay, because we had some issues with the audio earlier on. So my name is Heidi. I'm Charlotte's colleague, also working in the international marketing team. I'm also South African, actually, but been living in the Netherlands for like 20 years. So I'm going to continue just quickly with the remaining slides that we have. So the bachelor programs that we offer here at the university, we have over 35 English taught bachelor's programs that Charlotte mentioned earlier. And in a few of these programs, we call it a numerus fixus programs, which is a Latin word for a set amount. So that usually means that there's a set amount of students that can enroll in this specific numerus fixus programs. And the reason that the university has implemented a numerus fixus is because otherwise the programs will really get too big. Then you'll have classes of over 1,000 students maybe participating in psychology or some other course. So one of the reasons why the numerus fixus has been implemented is due to maintain smaller classrooms and also to maintain the high quality of education offered here in research universities, such as the University of Groningen. So the limited places that we have, the numerus fixus, they are for a certain few of the courses that we have. I think, Charlotte, you have to maybe click on the next slide, because I don't think I can do it. Yeah. As far as I know, you have to click on the slides. So you can see our courses that we have at the moment. There are 5 courses that are numerous fixes programs: artificial intelligence, international business relations, medicine, psychology. And there's also, I think, 2 more, which is computing science and artificial intelligence already mentioned on there. And then for the next term, the new year that's starting, there's 2 additional programs which will have this selection, and that is biology, the bachelor's program, and biomedical engineering. So usually these programs, they also have an earlier application deadline, because the majority of the courses that we have, you have until the 1st of May to make an application for them. But these programs, the 7 that we have now for next year, they have an early application deadline. It means you can start from the 1st of October until the 15th of January. So you have just over 3 months to submit your application. And this numerous fixes usually means that you make an application at the university, but you also make an application actually to the faculty, and the faculty will select the students that will start in this specific program. So we can go on to the next slide. Let's have a look. Can you switch, make the next slide?
Yep, so this is the entry requirements.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can see it, Heidi.
Yeah, I can see it now. So, of course, the National Senior Certificate. So this is also a certificate that I actually obtained in South Africa, which is super long ago. I actually thought about it this morning when Charlotte and I talked about the presentation, and I obtained my certificate in 1993. So that's a pretty long time ago. But for you guys, you'll have to have the certificate with 7 examination courses. And there's an average of 70% that's taken of the courses that you have. This excludes mathematics, literature, and as far as I know, life orientation courses. And aside from the 7 examination courses with the aggregate percentage, you also have to have at least 1 of the IEB advanced placement courses. And that can be in mathematics, physics, or English. And it has to have a minimum of 55% when you include one of the examination courses. It's of course really handy, and I will share this later on as well in the presentation. We have an actual site which gives the entry requirements per country, and South Africa is also mentioned in this entry requirements table. So the national certificate that I've mentioned and the courses, what you need, this is just a basic entry requirement for students. Of course, you have different faculties, and some of them will have additional entry requirements. If you, for example, think of the Bachelor's in Chemistry, which is a popular program offered by the Faculty of Science and Engineering, they will require your National Senior Certificate, of course, the aggregate and the IEB examination, but they will also make an additional assessment on courses that you've taken. For example, if you want to do chemistry, you will have to have taken courses such as mathematics, physics, and chemistry in your final senior certificate. So the admissions office will also check the literature that you've studied in this course to see whether this is accessible. So this is basic entry requirement that I mentioned, but make sure when you check the program that you want to study, that you're interested in, have a look at the entry requirements per program and per faculty. So, and I think the next one, so the binding study advice, very important as well. We just call it the BSR here in the Netherlands. So this means that actually you have to obtain 75% of all your courses. You have to pass 75% of all your examinations in your program. And the reason for this is because usually we have this philosophy that concerns admissions for programs in the Netherlands, that it's relatively easy to get into a program. Of course, you have to have the right certificate, diploma, high school certificate, and possibly courses. So we usually have this motto: it's easy to get into the program, but it's difficult to stay in the program. So the universities, research universities like ours, we actually make our selection of students in the first year. So that's why we have this binding study advice, and that you have to obtain 75% of all your exams. So it is a minimum of 45 out of the 60 European credits that you will have in your first year. Because a bachelor's program is 3 years. 1 year is 60 credits, in total 180. So in your first year, you'll have to obtain 45 out of the 60 ECTS in order to stay into the program. Of course, there are exceptions possible, and this is something that you will discuss with your study advisor, which is appointed to each student at each program of a program of the faculty that you'll study in. And usually this is it's monitored really early on as well. Students, I think around December, because the year starts in September, and at December already, you'll be informed by the study advisor of your specific program where you are sort of at the moment with your program. Are you doing pretty okay? You're doing fine, you can just carry on? Or is there something that you have to sort of keep track on, watch out for the courses, make more of an effort, or if you're more or less in a danger zone? So the university has tracked your binding study advice route and will inform you really early on in your year how the process is going or how you are doing in your study program. So we also have a really good support structure here at the University of Groningen. It's for our Dutch and international students. We have our immigration service desk, the ISD. So the immigration service desk, they are really useful for applying for the student visa. If you have a non-EU passport, for example, and you need to require a residence permit or visa to enter the Netherlands. The ISD also informs students about work permits, what's possible for you with your status here in the Netherlands, and whether it's possible for you to work or not. And also what type of health insurance you will need when you are international students studying in the Netherlands and in Groningen. They also arrange the welcoming ceremony together with our events team. The welcoming ceremony is a really popular event each year. It was held online, sort of hybrid for the post intake. The welcoming ceremony is a fantastic opportunity. Each year, new students will attend this event. It's held in a beautiful venue in the city center. And there's lots of stands that students can, visit, and you can get a brochure from the health services. You can register at the municipality. You can see how you need to open a bank account. Welcoming ceremony is really one of the most interesting events for new students, and have been also voted one of the best ceremonies for international students in the Netherlands here at the university. So I mentioned the study advisors. They track your BSI, your binding study advice. They monitor this during your studies. The study advisor is also there to maybe assist you with your program. If you finish your bachelor's or you want to do a specialization somewhere, a study advisor is someone who can guide you on this route and make you choose the right program or the right courses, or just carry on with your study program, what you want to do. And you also have the student psychologists, they are more on a central level at the university, and they are there for students with more issues beyond study, of course. If you have more personal issues or anything relating to that, the student psychologists are there at the university to help you as well. And you have various work groups, thesis support services. You have the career services as well, which is pretty important. At university, we have it's not just about graduating with a bachelor's or a master's and getting off and finding employment. The university has an obligation to prepare students for the job market. And in the Netherlands, the job market is very competitive, but it is a great opportunity to start with entry-level positions after graduation. And you have the larger faculties like think economics and business, science and engineering, or faculty of arts as well, that really want to train and prepare students for employment after graduation. So that's why it's really important. And they have other functions as well, like workshops. They do very like networking events with a lot of companies based here in the Northern Netherlands. They can check your CV as well. They can do like a mock job interview, just a lot of stuff to prepare students after graduation, because it's really important, as a lot of students stay in the Netherlands after they've finished their studies. Okay, we can go to the next slide, Charlotte. Let's see. So accommodation in the Netherlands. Yeah, it is a pretty important topic to discuss. It is very actual as well. The thing about accommodation in the Netherlands is it cannot be compared to other university campuses elsewhere, like in the US, for example, or the UK, where it's really common to attend a study program and you have a dormitory on campus and you really study with a lot of students together in your program, possibly, or whatever. In the Netherlands, you don't really have that. It is the responsibility of a student, whether you're Dutch or international, to arrange your own accommodation. And in the past few years, Groningen has, it's a very, very popular student city. And Groningen is a typical student city as well. So there are a lot of students only coming here for study purposes. So the reason is that the accommodation issue in the past few years has been quite dramatic. There's a lot more students and not so much accommodation available each year. So university obviously has an obligation in a certain sense to international students that they will assist with accommodation. And they use an organization called SSH, which is a non-profit organization. And they are focused in almost all of the major student cities in the Netherlands, like Groningen or Amsterdam, The Hague, Leiden. I'm not sure about The Hague, but various student cities like Utrecht as well. So it's in a non-profit organization. It's a Dutch abbreviation, Studentenhuisvesting. And in SSH Groningen, you have around 1,500 rooms reserved. So this is, the rooms are shared between our university and the Universities of Applied Science, which is also located in Groningen, the Hanze. And the thing is, with the accommodation which is available with the SSH, it is limited. So it's of course not enough for all the students that will eventually start the program here. You can only apply for the accommodation via SSH when you have received an offer from the university's admissions department. And that's why we really urge our students, don't look at deadlines. Like you have the numerus fixus deadline, which is the 15th of January, and you have the regular deadline, which is the 1st of May. Try and submit your application as soon as possible. And you can receive an outcome from the admissions office, which is conditional, which means that you will still have to graduate. It doesn't matter as long as you have an offer from them, because you will need this offer to apply for accommodation via SSH. And the SSH organization, they usually open around May, but it was much earlier. I think the last 2 years around April. And within 2 to 3 weeks, it is full. It's all taken. So that's why we urge students apply early so that you can take advantage of the situation at SSH, that you can submit an application for housing via them. Yeah, we've also made it in red that accommodation is a problem in the Netherlands, and it is a problem. There's no point in sugarcoating it. We have to tell students, apply early. The sooner you apply, the sooner you get an offer from the admissions office, and then you can start your journey in finding accommodation. Because yeah, a lot of private accommodation is being built, of course, but the university isn't in charge of this. So it's really, students are on their own when trying to find a room or apartment in the city center. So apply early, start early. So there's also a slide about the accommodation or the finances, I see. Yes.
Yeah.
So, if you consider the tuition fees that we have here in the Netherlands, the tuition fees for research universities for European students are all set. This is decided by the Dutch government, it's also subsidized. So that's quite a low amount, just over 2,200 euros each year. And for non-EU students, it ranges from everything, say, between 13,500 euros up to 18,000 euros. This is for non-EU students. So we've taken in an aggregate, which is 15,000 euros for a year. So you can compare this tuition fee to other universities. Charlotte has added Monash and Warwick University. You can see it's quite reasonable. The tuition fee for, obviously, it's very reasonable for European students, but as well for non-EU students. So just a quick overview that you can see the living expenses. So this is also very personal, because we mention an amount of 850 to 1,100 euros per month. And it really depends on your own spending, because it's, yeah, some students are very, like, you know, they're quite thrifty and look after their money, but some of them get coffee 3 times a day and take away food. So that adds up. So it really depends on you as a student what your expenses will be. So take it really, it's 850 or 1,100 euros, but it could be anything. It could be less, it could even be more. And it depends about your housing, your room, the cost that you will have, and whether you have a part-time job, of course. And part-time jobs during your second years of your bachelor's. I forgot to add that, because the binding study advice, which I've mentioned earlier, it's not handy to get a part-time job in your first year. The first year is the most important year of your studies. So something for your second or third year of your bachelor's. And tuition fee loans, which are also available for students. It's mostly for EU students, and supplementary grants. Yeah, the supplementary grants is also for EU students, as far as I know.
Oh, have we lost you, Heidi? Can you hear us? Anybody out there? George, can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think we've just lost Heidi.
Okay, I will pick up where she left off. Oh, let's go back. It's powering on ahead. So outside the classroom, because you can't be studying all the time, or as tempting as it might be. So we found out yesterday the university's planning to renovate our sports center in a big way. So we have literally, you could have, if you're a water polo person, if you like climbing walls, if basketball's your thing, chances are there is a sport that you can do. And of course, you have the standard aerobics type or gym going, if that's your thing too. But sports isn't an issue here. And we've had quite a few in the recent Olympic and Paralympic Games. Some Groningen current and past students win win medals. So we're quite good at that here. Also, if sports isn't your thing, there's numerous other clubs. So there's dance, Model United Nations, which I know I used to do at university many moons ago. And each faculty or each program, in fact, has a study association. And what a study association is, might be you're in a group with all students doing international relations. So you might have conferences you go to, you might have training days that you do if you're doing marketing or business. So chances are there is something out there for everybody. I think there's a gaming club. It depends on what's in it for you. So Heidi had touched upon being able to work after you finish. So if you have an EU passport, which I no longer do as a Brit, you can work as many hours as God sends. Of course, we don't advise that because you have to pass a degree. You're here to graduate, not to be the best stacker of shelves. If you're a non-EU student, then the employer you work for would need to apply for sponsorship for you. So for example, we had a Costa Rican student assistant and we could apply for their permit. And there's also a limited number of hours. So usually I think it's about 20 hours a week. I imagine that you'd want to try and maybe get a job here, maybe not, but you're able to change your standard student visa into what's called an orientation year. And during that year, the idea is you look for a job in your field, or if you're like, I just want to work, you could pick grapes for that year if you wish, but most people don't. Most people decide to, I don't even know if they've got grapes in the Netherlands, but most people decide to maybe get a part-time job somewhere in a company just to get some work experience and prepare them for after they graduate. Now we're wrapping up, coming to the last two bits. Now we found out yesterday again that we can have a full on-site open day. So if you are going to be in the Netherlands around the 12th of November, that's an option, but we are also having online information days for bachelors and masters. So if you just have a look at that link that's listed there, the information will be put up there. You can also meet us online. We do a lot of virtual events similar to this one. So if you do have questions, you can jump in there. Yesterday, the day before, we had our new international alumni ambassadors. And although there wasn't a South African or Zimbabwean this, there was a lady who's Kenyan. Which I know is not South Africa or Zimbabwe. But if you're interested about, what the experience is from a different side, we have a range of those. And then we've also got something called UniBuddy, which allows you to chat with students doing your program. All these are on the link there. And we also organize online campus tours. So drop us an email and we'll put you in touch with someone from a faculty, also a student that's in your program, and you can arrange a chat and they'll give you a little bit of a tour or some insight into what's going on, I was going to say on campus. We don't actually have one campus, on site, I should say. And we're at the end. So I think Heidi's gone off into the abyss. So I don't know where she is. If you do have any general questions, drop us an email. Of course, global education, first port of call. And they can usually hunt me, track me down, find me wherever I am. And I'm really quite good at responding quickly. But if you do want to get in touch directly, that's my email, Heidi's email, and then the perspectives. And then, of course, we've got all our socials. Follow us, tag us, all the usual. But yeah, that's the end of the presentation from me. So I'm going to sort of put this down and then hand back to George and then stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, ladies, both you and Heidi. I think we've got Heidi back now as well.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. There we go, Heidi. Yeah, we lost you with the connection there, but it's all good.
I saw Charlotte did the presentation. No problem.
Yeah, all good. Ladies, no, first of all, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. It was really good to sort of get your perspective, and we've got quite a few questions that came through. I've got quite a bit that I would like to ask you, and we still got quite a bit of time left with this webinar, if you don't mind. First up, for all the students listening in on this, all the links that Charlotte and Heidi referenced, we will share them in the newsletter post this webinar, where you'll get the recording as well. And I'll increase Heidi's sound as well, just so everyone can hear. I know there was a couple of people that couldn't hear it, so don't stress. We will make sure that you get the right information. Charlotte, in our last conversation with you a couple of months ago, you touched on the support services at Groningen. I'm probably going to pose Heidi this question, because Heidi, you're also a student. You also went and studied at Groningen, if I recall, right?
No, I've been working here really long.
Okay, brilliant. So from your perspective, like the students that you see and help, how does the support services work? And do they really work? That's what a lot of parents and kids ask us from South Africa and Zimbabwe is, what are the support services like?
Well, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'll try and speak loud. But I think it was also mentioned in the presentation about the support structure. And I mentioned the immigration service desk, which is, of course, the first start point, really. If you're an international student and you've made your application with the admissions office, they also, with your admissions statement, send quite a large attachment called an admissions checklist. And there's really a lot of information in here that students will have to check carefully when starting the whole admissions journey, once they've received an offer. And this includes various departments, for example, the immigration service desk that you have to contact when you need to get starting with your visa application. Your admissions officer will be the person that you'll be in contact with quite a lot during the actual journey before you start. And the university will inform students. There's a lot of emails that you will receive in StudyLink. We always tell students a lot, check your emails every day, make sure you check your spam box. A lot of information is sent to students to prepare them, what is the next steps in your application and admissions route, and also newsletters that the university will send. Have you made a decision? Is Groningen the city that you're going to choose? What do you need to know about accommodation, about living here in Groningen, tuition fees, a lot of aspects like that. It's important for students to keep a track on the emails that they receive, of course, and to make sure they read everything. And a lot of people get a lot of email and don't read anything. But, I think the university does provide students with a lot of information quite early throughout the year. And also the issue with accommodation, to tell students, make your application early, apply early, and just keep on track of everything. And once they hear as well, students are informed, for example, immigration service desk or the student information and administration services, their actual faculty, student advisors. So yeah, it is pretty good structure. Just make sure you read everything carefully.
If I could add on to that, because I think just sort of the flip side to your question, perhaps, George, is when they're here, is what support does the university provide? And I think I mentioned this in our previous conversation, that at the end of the day, if somebody does not succeed at the university, then we've also kind of failed ourselves and the student. So there's a lot of mechanisms in place to provide support for students once they are here. So we touched upon study advisors. So the study advisors are almost the first port of call if a student is overwhelmed by the amount of study that they're having to do, if a student's having issues in their student house and they feel they can't concentrate, if a student's feeling homesick, the study advisors where you'd go, and they would be able to signpost you. As Heidi mentioned earlier, we've got psychologists, and they've just hired a lot more, because as you can imagine, with people that were studying online in the previous year, people that have come finally in their second year and haven't been able to bond with people in that first year, people have needed some support in some way. So we've increased in the Student Service Centre, we've increased the number of psychologists and student psychologists we have there. Finance, again, the best thing I can say is if there are issues that come up, the study advice is almost a portal. They are the portal or the guardian that will steer a student to the various people that will be able to provide them with help. But I think as a structure, as a university, things are in place. And it's finding out where and who, and that's where the study advisor comes in. Yes, hope that answers your question.
No, definitely does. And it's great to hear that from, from our business that helps students. So we, counsel students, we'll help them with their visas, we'll go through the accommodation. So we do all the work in the beginning to make sure they've got a great start. And then a lot of parents having conversations with, or even postgraduate students, they always talk about the stress and the anxiety that it is going to a new country. Most of us at Global have done that. We've done it ourselves. And we always say, get involved with the support services, and the research that we've done, the visits that we've done to Groningen, the one thing that stands out is the care for international students. So yeah, any students that are listening in on this, please do reach out and take advantage of them. I know I kick myself when I think about my degree and how much I did not take advantage of the support systems that were there. So yeah,
it's there.
Hi, sorry, Charlotte, we've got one question here from a potential master's student. So first up, does Groningen accept the undergrad degrees from South Africa, or does it go to like a pre-master's like in the UK? How does that sort of work at Groningen? Then follow up to her question is she's looking for information about psychology. She's interested in the psychology department. And the third question is about the EU status. So I'll ask that again.
So as far as do we accept South African bachelor's degrees, you need to have done your honours year. So you need to have done a 4-year degree. The other thing to be aware of is with master's degrees, they look at people like, oh, but I achieved, I don't know, the first class in this and I want to pivot. I got it in economics and I want to pivot and I want to do it in psychology. Students go away to university. You're effectively going away for 4 years if you're doing a humanities arts degree, or 5 years. The bachelor's is seen as the base, and then the master's is the completion of what you're studying. So the idea is you need to have studied the base first. So I don't know, hopefully the lady that's asking has done a base that is in that subject, and then you come and you do the master's. So what they do is they look at the modules you've studied. So just because you said I did psychology bachelor's and then I wanted to do psychology at master's, that is, they will go in and they will assess what modules have you actually done. Do you have enough statistical modeling? Because the University of Groningen loves statistics. I don't think even I could do another master's here, because numbers, statistics, statistical research methodology, these are all the things they will look at in your transcript to decide if you're eligible. So in answer to the question, if you've done a degree that's a 4-year degree, then you are eligible for a master's. But in order to do a master's in the field that you've done your bachelor's in, you need to have done a set number of modules, because the bachelor's is seen as a continuation. So that's something that people say, well, can you tell me now? It's very difficult to give a blanket answer, because the actual admissions officers need to look and assess what it is that you've studied and if you can go on to the master's version of that. And I'm trying to remember what the second question was.
She went, I was going to say a little bit of information on the psychology side of the masters.
Yes. So it's always difficult when people ask about, tell me about psychology, because psychology, in fact, most of our masters, it's almost like, I would say the academics within these universities, you have an umbrella subject. And within that, if you actually go and look at the psychology master's page for the University of Groningen, you have work and organizational psychology, you have child psychology, you have occupational health psychology, you have sports psychology. It's difficult to say, tell us about the psychology side of it, because you specialize. So like I said, bachelor's, broad-based foundation, master's is where you hone your skills. So what I'd advise is go and have a look on the website, or if you already have an idea of what your passion is, have a look on the website and then drill down, because you can look at the modules that you would be studying in each. It's a 1-year degree at master's level for humanities and arts and psychology. And that is able to tell you what it is. So the faculty is one of the city center faculties. Psychology is very, very popular. It's diverse. It's quite a nice faculty, I have to say. Thanks, totally agreed with the website. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm reading the top part of the message. Oh yeah, my question was around South African degrees. Oh, okay, Micheline, I hope that did answer. Cool. So sorted.
I think I have one more.
Micheline, just, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, hi, for Michelle, Micheline, The application for the Master Psychology program, Charlotte, as far as I know, the Master's is now selective Master's
Yes.
program. So yeah, they have a limited number of students as well who can start the program. And when you make your application, Micheline, it's really important to add a copy of the statistics, which Charlotte also mentioned. But add this already with your application, because they ask us from each and every applicant to send a detailed course overview, course descriptions of the statistics taken in your bachelor's. They will ask us anyway. So just to expedite everything, make sure you add this with your application. And it's a selective program. So apply
Yeah.
as soon as you can.
Micheline, not to plug in Global here as well. If you are listening in on this as well, this is what Global helps with. So we help get all these questions for you before you even make that application. That's one of the benefits of using an agent like us, where we sort of help guide and advise information directly from the likes of Charlotte and Heidi and the admissions team. So please do reach out. I will pop you an email with my contact details, and more than happy to have a conversation. But if you have any more questions, and if you'd like to have a discussion, I can unmute you as well, and you can speak directly to us as well. So please don't be shy.
I've just scrolled back through the second one of Micheline's questions about EU rates.
EU status. Yeah.
And you probably don't know the answer to this. The good news around this, I don't know if you want to, if you want to broach that. The Netherlands is very different from the UK in that sense. So in the UK, if you want to come and get EU or home rates, you need to have lived in the EU. Well, it's not even the EU now. You need to have lived previously. You need to have had an EU residence for 5 years before you start your degree. The Netherlands, you could have an Italian passport. In fact, we've got one of our student assistants who's from South Africa, Johannesburg, but has an Italian passport. Had never lived in Italy. We have this from Greek students, Cypriot students. It's simply a passport. They just look at your passport. They do not care where you've been in the previous few years. And based on that, you get the 2,000 and I think 2,200 or so euros. And that applies to bachelor's and master's. There's no differential fee for bachelor and master students, except for the liberal arts and sciences subjects that I mentioned. And you mentioned that you're Belgian. You're more than welcome to join the chat, Micheline, but you mentioned you're Belgian. You don't live, yeah, perfect. You'd come in as an EU national.
EU.
So your fees for your masters would be, if you're coming in the coming year, would be 2,209 or something, which is not bad.
Very
So,
good.
hopefully that
Very good and support as well. Could you explain why those prices for EU is low? Just to show the difference between UK and Dutch universities, Charlotte. You mentioned in the last presentation. I think it will help Micheline as well greatly.
I think the headline statement is the Netherlands does not rely on student fees. Full stop. So the Dutch are very keen to ensure that everybody gets the same education at the same level. That's why entry requirements can be seemingly low. And that's to give access to education for all. So the government pumps a great deal of money into education and any gaps that it foresees. So a student that's an international student provides, and I'm writing a paper on this at the moment, adds to the interculturalness of a degree, or the broadness or the experience that they bring. We do not rely on 5, 6, 8, 20, 30 students in order to bring us this much money in order for us to do this. So, which is very different from the US, Australia, and the UK, where student fees and funding are what help to finance a lot of the research activities, the infrastructure that you'll get in universities. And this is also very different from Germany, for example, where there are limited or no fees, but the infrastructure in Germany will not necessarily be at the level of the Netherlands. So we have a lot of German students that cross the border and come and study here, despite education there being free. I don't know if that sort of answers that question. And
no, definitely. I think it's so important that you mentioned that as well. And it's one of the reasons why Global supports a lot of Dutch universities is because of that. And it's something to take in consideration with the cost of studying overseas throughout the world. It is really expensive. We have countless conversations with South Africans, specifically more so than in Zimbabwe, where people don't know this. People don't know what's out there in terms of international education. And one of the questions we always get posed is, it's cheaper to study in Asia. And it's like, no, not really. It's definitely not. You need to do your research, look at your rankings, look at the lifestyle, look at the sport. And everything that you both have mentioned in this is worthwhile information for people to consider when choosing a university.
I think it's 2 points to touch on that you mentioned there. Ranking is very important. And I think that's why Dutch education is so wanted at the moment, because to pay to go to a university that's within the top 100 in a country that's safe, with the opportunity to stay and work for at least a year afterwards. Because I know, yes, students can go to Asia, but the minute you finish, you go home. Whereas here, the government is, they recognize that what students bring postgraduate and not while they're studying. So yeah, well-ranked, stable, safe, dependable country in English. I think these are all the factors to consider.
I've got a question here from an anonymous student. So I'm not sure who's mentioned this. So if you have, please just let me know which country you're located in. The question here, and I'm not sure, Charlotte, if we can answer this. What is the GPA entry requirement for an American international high school student?
Oh, that's a good
South
question.
Africa.
Heidi, I'm going to look that up just now. Heidi, do you have that to hand?
I think I'm not sure, because we don't usually look at GPA requirements. For a US candidate, as far as I know, it's the high school diploma and 4 APs, or
it's usually 5. I'm just picking it up now because I've just found it.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to go into another browser because I might.
Yeah, no. I'm using.
Okay.
God bless the iPhone. So if we go into the US, which is actually on our website here, and we go to what is needed for the USA. First of all, it depends on what subject you'd be looking for. Let me see if I can see if you've indicated that. I can't see it here. I will say, okay, so generally if we pick an art subject, you need to have a high school diploma with at least 3 content-based APs examined by the College Board. So grades 3 to 5 and a high school GPA of between 3.0 and 4. And if you can't do the AP courses, then they'll accept the high school diploma, including 6 advanced honors or college credits with an average of B. But this is, for example, for an arts program. It very much depends, and I'm trying to find a way I dropped the link in here, but if you contact George or myself or Heidi, we'll be able to sort of send this link through to you. But that is generally what you need. They would be looking for the 3 AP courses, but it differs so wildly. For example, if you're doing science and engineering, if you go in there, you need AP calculus, A, B, or BC. But broadly, 3 content-based AP courses, grades 3 to 5, and a GPA of 3, between 3 and 4. I hope that answers your question.
And just to that student as well, thanks for asking the question. Get in touch with Global. I'll put you in touch with one of the senior counselors who specialize with that type of American sort of classification as well. But also remember, the GPA can mean different things. So it depends on what you're looking at as well. A lot of times GPA is a cumulative grading skill set, and they'll grade all your grades together and then give you a point. And these different universities will accept that differently as well. So please just do be careful and wary of that, and do get in touch with us. We're more than happy to help you out and give you that grading assistance. Just a follow up to Micheline, Charlotte, was for her son, who's completing his bachelor's and will be doing his honors 4th year next year in 2022. So they're looking at master's options for 2023. So you've done the right thing by starting off early.
Yep. We'll be here, all things being well.
Yeah. I just think, if you're an EU citizen living in South Africa and you've got the passport, you've got to take advantage of it. And with a world-class university as well. I know you got selective processes with psychology and that, but I just think, a South African European passport's got a great story to tell. And, people look at that as well. It's not just the grades, it's the whole package. So Micheline, tell your son to not sell himself short. He's doing the right thing, and well done for starting early. We all appreciate that. Charlotte, do you have any questions for me for a change? I know I'm going to throw you.
Hold on. Let me just get my book ready. No, I think that I guess my question, and maybe Heidi could jump in if she's got any as well. But my big question is, what I guess, current popular subjects that students are looking for coming from South Africa and Zimbabwe? And what are the biggest concerns for students and parents when looking to study overseas? I think those would be my big two.
One of the biggest concerns is what Micheline has just put in the comment. And if you want to have a read of it, it's probably why Global Lisa, who founded the business 20 years ago, has been dealing with is these issues where so many undergrad students can't go in and do their masters. So that's probably one of the biggest issues. But to answer your question specifically, psychology, the health sciences, the pandemic has brought a lot of youngsters into the equation of how can we help? How can we be a better society? So we're seeing a lot of interest in environmental courses, the STEM courses as well, which are finally picking up to where they should be. Not everybody wants to be a lawyer anymore, or a business entrepreneur now, which is great to see that. Logistics as well. That's another thing that keeps coming up, my industry. And for people listening in on this, the Dutch Rotterdam port is one of the most technologically advanced ports that there is. There's not a single human being on Rotterdam port. It's a fantastic place to be and see, and you're into logistics. There's no better place to study at the moment. So yeah, Charlotte, I think those are the couple of issues that we've seen. And in terms of the interest level and types of courses, I do think a lot more of the arts and the environmental courses are coming back into the equation.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good to know. And Micheline's touched on the fact that it is quite difficult to get into a master's, and that's great that people are looking more broadly, and also not looking at traditional destinations, although they are great. As a Brit, they are fantastic. I think it's good to just explore what else is out there, and a lot of EU countries are now offering a number of degrees in English, and they're world-class universities. So that for us is very encouraging to see. I don't know if oh, sorry, go ahead.
Charlotte, sorry, just one more potential discussion here. A lot of kids are very wary with COVID and the pandemic. With things staying back to normal.
Normal.
Normal. Are students advised to keep having the vaccine to go to the Netherlands? What's the situation? I know it's a touchy subject and all of that, but for the nature of these webinars, we're trying to be as informative as possible for everybody that's looking to apply, not just masters, but we have a healthy undergrad cohort that's looking at this webinar as well. If you could just go a little bit into that.
Yeah, and I can start, and then I don't know, Heidi, do you want to kick off with the vaccine conversation, or shall I launch and then you can jump in?
I'll just say it really quickly that in the Netherlands, everything's voluntarily. So yeah, taking a vaccination is, of course, you're not obliged to take it. There are possibilities for students to, and there were possibilities for students to get the vaccine. It is also free for everybody. At a certain period in time. It was during the end of August, beginning of September, but that's now passed. But and there's no checks or anything at the university. It's not the university's responsibility to check whether students are vaccinated or not. It's your own responsibility. We usually advise students to visit the government.nl website, which has all the latest information about vaccines, about measurements or restrictions or anything like that. But,
on the flip side, just to give you an example of the country that the Netherlands is, the bulk of the population is vaccinated. The bulk, I'd say, I think there's about maybe 2 million through this country of about 17.
It's not vaccinated.
1.8 million of a country that's about 17, 18 million. So if you put that into context, vaccination take up here is high. If you need a test because you can't get vaccinated for health reasons, whatever reasons, we advise students, even if they are vaccinated, to self-test, and they can order self-tests online. I've got about 30 in my house that I just randomly take if I need to. We suggest students self-test twice a week. I don't know if I'd mentioned it in the webinar, but we are, because of this high take-up of vaccination, we are able to I won't say back to normal, but from the 25th, based on the press conference I had a couple of days ago, lecture theatres are back to full capacity. They're looking to remove the distancing element of it. And masks are to be worn in public transport still. So the only way that the government and this country has been able to do that is by this very high vaccination rate. And if you compare it to other countries where the take-up isn't so high, and I won't mention any, you can see that a bulk of their teaching is still online, whereas the Netherlands is moving in a totally different direction. As Heidi said, no one's going to sort of tie you down. There's no mandates, because there's no need for a mandate. There's no need for a mandate because of the high take-up. People see the advantage and being able to return to normal. But of course, if people can't, there is that option. Coming into the Netherlands from overseas, and there's certain countries, we've got our green, our amber, our reds. No, they didn't use red. They used green, amber, and orange, because apparently red is quite startling. You would probably have to do a PCR test on entry. From next week or the week after, we're moving to what's called a Corona Check app to be able to go into, and most of Europe has this. So this is the app. This is me. But this just gives, everyone's going to download this. And when you go into a restaurant, a bar, you either have evidence of when you had a test, and COVID test that's negative, evidence of if you had COVID and recovered, or evidence of your 2 vaccines. And vaccines are still widely available. And a lot of them are walk-in. So I'm just seeing it from the point of view of someone that lives here, and how the government has done it in quite a measured way and not a mandated way, because people are seeing the advantages of what is possible. But those that don't wish to also have alternatives. So
for me, it's a great testament to see that with the Dutch universities and with the Dutch people in itself. You know, it's when we first visited the Netherlands, and Lisa, the founder of the business, you know, Global will only represent a university if we've been to it, seen it, and we're trained by that university. So for Micheline, if you're listening in on this call, that's what we sort of bring to that conversation. The first thing that Lisa will always talk about, and to this day I always remember it, is the multicultural and the openness, but also the bluntness of the Dutch. And I think it's a great testimony to that. And I think with ending this presentation, I know we're a little bit over time. So I wanted to thank you both. And if you could both close out this webinar with one place that students should go and visit on campus or off campus. Not too many bars, please, because I'll get in trouble with some parents as well. So please, if you wouldn't mind recommending one place, and I'll leave it to the two of you to close the webinar. Thank you again, ladies.
You start with your one place that you'd recommend someone goes and visits.
When in Groningen, okay. Yes. The Forum, it's gorgeous.
Yes, that's a very tall building that gives you an overview of the whole city. It's literally a 3-minute walk from here. For me, as someone that comes from London, the big thing for me is being able to cycle everywhere. And so over the summer and during lockdown, a 7 to 10-minute cycle gets you into sort of woodland, which, as someone that's grown up in an urban environment, I'm not really used to. So I'd say get a bike, explore. There's so much greenery around here. It's very, very exciting. So that would be my recommendation, is get a bike and go cycling. And that's it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
And to everybody listening, keep safe, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Fantastic. Thank you. Bye-bye.